Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. Mud Flood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they are willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. A lot of talk going on. What is the North Pole? I got to get to the North Pole. That's where the camp of the saints are, the North Pole. Well, we're going to look at that in a lot of topics tonight. Remembering Brother Randy in prayer, doing traveling from Wisconsin down to Florida and back. We'll be talking to him soon. Uh, Updates on the weather may be coming. I mean, I'm going forward realizing that everybody else is going to get more hits than me. Everybody else is going to have an idea on my style well, you could have more if you do this or that. But I keep trying to emphasize I'm doing what the Lord directs me. And I don't have time to make a video, edit a video. I have classes. I took I don't know how many pages of notes today in class, and I did my homework. I finished it 30 minutes before I did this video for another class, and it's always busy. So I'm trying to maximize my time. Now, I suggest people get a notebook and a pencil and write these ideas down and search them yourself instead of when you're tired of me after 10 or 15 minutes, Lord willing, you click off and go to another one and say, well, I'll try to glean some more and remember everything instead of like hitting the Bible and comparing, what's going on. And I'm not going to be pushed off that. And when people are talking about, well, it could be the North Pole, we don't know. Well, you're not, what are you basing that on really, instead of people who jump on to the Tartarian bandwagon or the mystery? I'm thinking about Brian Austin Lampert, Jonathan Click, More Than a Flame, people who get a following and then boom, they're gone. They're exposed. But in the meantime, oh my gosh, he's got 50,000 subscribers. Why can't you be more like him? The Stones cried out, and God let me hear them. There was no premillennialism. There was no, the golden ages past. There was only preterism, and they were waiting for the millennium. God has not allowed me to forget that. And that every day I'm going to put out what I learned that day and try to tie it in to everything I've done in the past. And Lord willing, somebody will be a Berean and study these scriptures every day as I have been trying to model. Now let's get into just a few things, but the emphasis on survey. How do you know that there is a North Pole up there and you can trust your compasses? They had multiple different rangefinders handheld in World War II. That's 1945. This hasn't been figured out how to use a compass. And I'm going to go to the North Pole. Nice. This is the beginning, from last night, and I know I was in the spirit world. It was quite the time of predicting with a bullseye map that the storm would hit Hollywood. And nobody else did that in the whole world. And I did it 2.5 days before the storm hit, when the closest computer models were showing everything from Sacramento to San Diego. And I said, no, this is God judging Satan's hometown. Hip, say goodbye to Hollywood, no longer the hip, hip, hooray. I stumbled on this because I was worried about these dare I just say in jest, knuckleheads who think they're going to go to whatever is the North Pole, the center of the flat earth under a dome, the biblical model. John Delano, my first experience with stone walls, he was a young boy living in South Deerfield, New Hampshire, and he had some 6 miles of stone walls. They were everywhere. So he got a handheld GPS unit, went around the complex, pattern of these stone walls that are everywhere. And they made no sense until he found a 1790 map of property boundaries. And I think he found a 790 map, or what we call it, because we don't know the years. He mapped 726 miles in New Hampshire, 312 in New York, 414 using old land surveys and LIDAR. And this took off. This guy got published. He was just what did it say he was? Well, he wasn't a publishing person. So you can see here's the LIDAR image. He's going to, and look at where it would be about 1710 when all of a sudden this starts going back up. And these are the sites that they found. I don't know, those great big cities that look like they were divided for the landed gentry, when after the reset, the people who did the Freemasons, Jesuits, Rosicrucians, the wolves in sheep clothing who are somehow among us that got the power to say, this is ours now. These are the areas that are mapped. It made no sense. They just said, why are these things taking up hundreds of square miles? Here's a closer picture of one of those lots. This is the locations. Nearly 1,200 kilometers of boundaries of between 1685 and 1710 have now been surveyed. Wow. And the study yielded systematically higher declinations westwardly than the United States historical declination values of that time, maybe because of Armageddon or some of the other resets. But permanent settlements, they say, by Europeans, Jamestown and all of that, 1607, 1620, 1635, got everything laid out in my big brother's favorite decade, 1880 there. So we don't believe anything about these glaciated periods, do we? But do I have that pulled up? Yeah, so quick, here's the map. And that's the thing. It's like, it's small, it's too big. So, but you can kind of get the idea that I wish you could see the square, because I'm seeing that they have squares and stuff that I can tell would be hard for you to see, but that's the price we pay for. Maybe you can see some of them on this. Yeah, I know you can see those. And the LiDAR makes it a lot easier to see that what a massive, crazy system it was. I mean, wow, that must have been a pretty big hailstone. Sounds like a biblical size, one of those 20 cubits by 20 cubits. Kaboom. Let me hear you say, ow, ow. And here, this was confusing until they got these compasses straightened out and their magnetic declination, What? How to adjust for magnetic declination. A tale of the three norths. Knowing how to adjust for magnetic declination is essential for accurate backcountry declination navigation. But don't worry, learning how to adjust for magnetic declination is easy. Was that part of your plans on like, oh, I'm going to go to the North Pole and find Jesus waiting for me? Do you know how I mean, we're supposed to be foolishness to the world, not just nonsense that you can't find or prove in the Bible. And if you do, show me. Just show me. Show me those verses that even Jesus is going to be on the earth and he's not in heaven by the Father's side. True north is also known as, that's the AKA, geodetic north. Refers to the direction along the Earth's surface at what they consider geographic North Pole. The point whither the Earth's latitudinal lines all meet because they believe it is a ball. They've been hypnotized to pretend it's ball-tarded. There is a magnetic north and a grid north. While both magnetic north and true north refer to a specific location, grid north refers to the northward directions represented on the grid lines of a map. They will not always match your compass. Look at some of those things that are like the mystery house or the house on a hill. Yeah, they're weird, man. Compasses and things don't work right there. Hey, cool, a map. I wonder if it's big if I do that right click thing and open it up. Well, it's kind of big. USSR, so that's before 1990. They believe in a North Pole and they've got some unexplored things up there. Man, we're going to just take our North Pole trip and we'll get caught in the vortex and pulled into the sunny land of Hollow Earth or whatever it is on top of the ball. On top of the ball? And you expect me to just go like, that's normal? What's all this? Step in time. Because maps reflect how the terrains relate to true north, it's necessary to adjust your compass for declination in order to take accurate readings. But not if you're just planning on being caught up into a vortex and sucked into the camp of the saints. So I just thought, you'd get it. Magnetic north is 4 degrees west of grid north and 2000, decreasing by about 1 degree in 6 years. Okay, now that you know that, you're going to be able to find it a lot easier. What is the instrument a surveyor uses to accurately find the north? The answer, obvious, is a compass. They have an old Transit from 1952 that has a compass which seems to be accurate to 15 degrees. Well, that's not a lot. However, that doesn't seem too incredibly accurate at all. Okay, yeah, they get it. Yeah, it's not incredibly, it's the lack of incredibly accurate. Furthermore, most modern digital theodolites, now that's what I was trained on in 1980 when I was a surveyor for the 82nd Airborne. Those guys, you talk about a bunch of yahoos. Man, I had no idea. I'm curious how a survey actually finds north with high accuracy. And I think we had to get within 0.032, uh, but we had theodolites. They have gyrotheodolites, not good, but it's an accurate way to find true knife. What you need is a plunging theodolite or one of the new ones. I think I have some pictures that might have a new one. I hope I do. I remember getting some pictures. Doesn't want to open. So what about that? These are all supposed to be Santa Claus helpers. This is a preview because they're all wearing those Phrygian caps. Thanks. Thanks, white people in Europe, for giving us such a spooky Santa Claus story. Dang. Look at this guy. Here's the spoon licker. Here's the window peeper, the doorway sniffer, sausage swiper. These are all different people. And I guess man, there was a spooky thing about that. And look at it. Here's this thing of Mithras. And they're wearing those Phrygian caps too. And that's a long time ago. You know, the people in the United States Revolution, the Jacobians, one of their favorite things was wearing Phrygian caps. Phrygian weird, man. There's this, hey, more proof, like you needed more proof. Hey, cut that picture off. I should have scrolled down. See, I've got this, lost some space there. But anyway, this is that video. I wanted to brush up on my Pied Piper presentation and got, some other interesting, well, and you see it's some Santa Claus pictures, and that's pretty cool. Never saw this part of the map where you can, when I finally found a really blown up picture of this plan of Paris that they still use today as the most accurate plan of that huge Starfort town. This is as if this page is being rolled up. There's a map, and they're planning something, this maybe, because they have this is what was built and what is there today. And is this showing us the ruins of, like, well, here's what we're covering up. And we're going to turn it into this Starfort, baby. Interesting. More than interesting, really. It's like fascinating. Seems like there was a reset and everybody knows it. Everybody knew it, except the people that were born right before World War II, and they never told their parents, and their parents, they never told you. Here's that super accurate plan of Paris. Not Paris, Rome. Any Phrygian caps in here? I don't see any. They don't have that torn off page thing going here. Oh, they didn't show it on this one either. Oh, yeah, there it is up there. What's this? Oh, that's part of the thing inside there. So here it is. This is the famous map. Angels built it. It looks like is their idea. Little angels, like more proactive than somebody who helps the cobbler make shoes at night. They're building a whole city. So this is one of the close-ups on that plan. They rebuilt let's say, to rebuild it and like it is today from the way they found it, more than likely, it's quite a production. It's getting it done. I know you want to get back to some of this sextant stuff, True North. What is, how long ago did we quit using these instruments? Were they really assigned to the ships in World War II? Yeah, I think so. That's what I'm finding out. That looks like a thumbnail. That too. Huh. William Rowan Hamilton. Yeah, that's some crap. Give him a flash of genius. And then just carved it in the fundamental formula for quadrivium multiplication. Come on. And they know it was the 16th day of October. Okay, sure. Have I shown that one yet? Can anybody prove me that? I was like confused by that like 10 years ago. I'm comfortable with it now. Matter of fact, two is not a prime, I'm willing to say. But look at this, number systems invented to solve the hardest problems. You shouldn't have to invent quantum physics because you want to rewrite history and fake atomic bombs so people can live in fear. Did I show these yet? I had, this was going to be something before the Lord said, like, oh my goodness, this is going to be the start of the judgment on Hollywood. And Hollywood could be Satan's home where he's been hanging out. Right? That Satan can only be in one place at one time. You know that, right? So there it is, right there. They had a map of the storm. And I'm there, well, I should draw a target on where I think it's going to hit. You can't really see it, but this little black spot is that's what I was centering on, because those are the transverse mountains. Beverly Hills, Beverly Crest, Beverly Canyon, Laurel Canyon, Charlie Manson, Houdini, Neil Young, and Crazy Horse. Am I sharing all that? Hi, Vignoid. I saw you on another show today, but I couldn't stick around, so I didn't. I think I was. Oh no, it was one of these things. I was looking at. I saw a comment that I just watched this same video that you did by Jack Johnson or something like that. It was fairly interesting. He kind of lost me at the end, but it sure started off like a ball of fire. I'm looking forward to see what he comes up with in the future. All right, so that you're not going to find the South that way. Your true north situation, you know, it's some weird stuff, people. Always, looking at everything. I guess we're going to just drop in real quick on some scripture. John chapter 1, verse 18 from the New King James. No one has seen God at any time. the only begotten Son who is in the bosom of Father. He has declared him, he has explained him, and he is at his Father's side. He's at, what they call here, at the bosom, at the side. I just want to, remind us, of Abraham's bosom. What is hell? There's a lot of things to understand. They will pour into your lap, into your bosom, shaken down, blessings. Abraham bosom and the rich man. Well, that's where we're going. God, who is in the bosom of the Father. We read that one. And John, the beloved writer of the gospel, he was there, and he was he was on the bosom. That means on the right hand of Jesus, the seat of honor, And they did observe a bay at 27 when they were shipwrecking, and they said, "Oh, there's a bay, maybe a place of safety, but a bay." The bosom of Abraham. The Lord said, we're going to look at this. This is a pretty strong root word, right? So here's those 4 verses, and that's the one we're going to look at. Luke 16, the bosom of Abraham, his side, his safety. Now there was a rich man dressed in purple and fine linen who lived each day in joyous splendor. Maybe he was a dink. And a beggar named Lazarus lay at his gate, covered with sores and longing to be fed with the crumbs that fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs came and licked his sores. Wow. One day, the beggar died and was carried by the angels to Abraham's side, and the rich man also died and was buried in Hades. So everybody always goes, what's Abraham's bosom? Whatever it is, it's in Hades, where at least the rich man was, where he was in torment. He looked up, saw Abraham from afar with Lazarus by his side, the Abraham, with that Lazarus by his bosom. So he cried out, Father Abraham had many sons, and many sons had Father Abraham. No, he didn't. He said, have mercy on me and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in agony in this fire. But Abraham answered, Child, remember that during your lifetime you received your good things, while Lazarus received the bad things. This might be, it's just jumping in my mind. The first will be last, the last will be first. Not all of them, but some of them. It seems like a lot of them. But now, back to Lazarus, he is comforted here while you are in agony. And besides all that, besides all this, a great chasm has been fixed between us and you, so that even those who wish cannot cross from here to there. Randy, is that a hint about a metamorphosis that has not taken place yet? Verse 27, then I beg you, Father, he said, send Lazarus to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers. Let him warn them so that they will not also end up in this place of torment. Oh, yikes, itty doodah. But Abraham replied, they have Moses and the prophets. Let your brothers listen to them. You do that Berean style. Read your Bible every day. What else is there? Strive to enter the narrow gate. Few. No, Father Abraham, he said, but if someone is sent to them from the dead, they will repent. Then Abraham said to him, if they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be persuaded, even if someone rises from the dead. Dang, what is a sextant anyway? It's a doubly reflecting navigation instrument that measures angular distance between two visible objects, usually the sun and what they call the horizon. It's an estimation, but hey, it got the job done. For example, sighting the sun at noon or Polaris at night to estimate latitude, sighting the height of a landmark may give a measure of distance off and held horizontally. A sextant can measure angles between objects for a position on a chart. Good thing they had those charts with those Portrulian lines and the compass rose, because they knew people were going to be the Antikythera mechanism or a sextant. So there's a bunch of different, you know, quadrants, types of sextants. They've been permitted. Now, the astrolabe is a type of those Antikythera mechanisms. They're everywhere, different types. Uh, Not the sign error. Okay, so you couldn't. Okay, well, you didn't need it because they were only estimating anyway. That's all they really cared about. But you could see by that previous map, they, you know, in the lidar, they're pretty darn good at it, right? I mean, they could guess good unless they had something better than a sextant. Hey, Gilligan, go get the radio and see if the professor's got the battery charged. Hey, remember this when we went over this? The cyclopedia. It's how come they call it an encyclopedia? It's a readable version of this book. That this is one of the books they found. And they based this reset on. The Rosicrucians must have had this or something, because this came out of nowhere. They know nothing else except this guy was a genius. He gave us the Gunther's scale. Gunther's scale. I said that twice because I want you to remember it, because I have a tab pulled up called the Gunther's scale. Because that's how I learned to survey. I mean, where would we be without it? But they didn't have a plunging theodolite like I did in 1980. But this is what, you know. And it's funny that I ended up in being a surveyor, as I've said before. It's documented. I only did algebra 1 in high school. The next math test I took was after I graduated, and they said, "Do you want to be a surveyor?" I said, "Oh, well, I was trying to compare bonuses and stuff, and I wanted to be a linguist, but I didn't get to be a linguist. And I didn't get to see my score on the test that they say I failed, but I don't see how. Where's that other? There's no more good pictures? Oh, here there are. Hey, look what we found. We found Reset World. And then we figured out, look what we found in this old star fort. And we got a bunch of, this might have been the time when Satan was loose, and they said, let's figure out this book. Look at this picture that's in this book. We got to figure it out. This is your eyeballs. You see where my mouse was? This is your eyeball. And it's coming, it's doing that. Oh, I used to know the name. I was really into anatomy for a couple of years. You want to see some more? I know. I do too. So this is all in that one book. And then they rewrote history. I mean, I showed this over a year ago, but nobody cares what I say because it's not like, oh my gosh, there's Nephilim blood. And I think my neighbor's a serpent person. Fractals. All I see is fractals here, like a tree. Because that's the tree of life in your brain. Part of it. And plus, it's good for me to review these things too, because it's not like, when you can get so caught up in your everyday, and it's like, honestly, these professors act like they think you're in college or something. I'm just kidding. The reason that this is so easy this semester, oh, I don't like it when I leave up the comments. The reason why it's so easy this semester is I'm taking a regular freshman history class, and then the one philosophy class is for freshmen too, and it's pretty darn easy. You can tell I'm doing videos every night. I just did my, homework that, it's like a half hour. And I got to write a 10-page paper before Friday. But it's not like the last semester's class where they allowed me into a third year level class where you have to do this stressing over footnotes properly. This one, you just write it like you're a freshman, and it's probably going to be more than 10 pages because I've got a lot to say on the topic. Hey, Mr. Tummy, welcome. Mr. Tummy and Vignoid, the only ones, and I know that there's, 10 people watching right now, and there's been 10 more that have popped on and popped off. Hopefully they'll come back, but I've still got some more information. I'm called. So, this is proof. This is evidence. Why aren't other people talking about it? Why don't we have any slave ship drawings? We have this. This is how you build a boat. They couldn't build this type of boat, according to our history, after this book was found for another couple hundred years. But they started building regular boats. They went from those Viking ships. There was resets. We can trace them. I guess that's not from the book. That's from 1734. Directly 1711, reset time. It's the cyclopedia. You need to look at it. This is how they taught us everything. So we saw the picture inside. Here's the one that they're dealing with outside. No, that's the same one. So let's close that out. Go here. Hey, here's a survey party. Looks like a party to me. Now that's the plunging Seattleite. Not quite military, I don't think. That's a modern one. That's construction quality. There's a compass that you can declinate, still commonly used by geographers, geologists, and surveyors for estimates. Get on your backpack, they make it look like it's an easy job. That's getting like a little bit more real life. This is hard. But they do have self-leveling now, which is something I could not. Boy, I could never envision like there'd be self-leveling. That's just amazing. Look at this guy. That is not even level at all. Terrible. Probably just posing for the picture. First all-male maybe, or an all-female surveying crew in Idaho. Sometimes they'll do that. They'll go like, let's get an all-women's crew. Because let's face it, when you go out surveying, I mean, the unless we were being tested, I mean, we went out for a month at a time. That's right. When Paco was in the Army, 1 out of every 3 months, I was perfecting my camping skills because I was living outdoors, holding a sextant type of a situation, the Helsinki University, because in the 1800s, everybody was learning this at the same time. That's your basics of surveying. Here's now, this is the most realistic, you know, yeah, sure. They've got a self leveling, you know, $12,000, $18,000 electric theodolite used. And, it's not like that, that other girl with her nice clean backpack on. These people are camping there. You can't go home every night. And notice this part of the dig out. You see how either her or her stick man, because there's a rod and a stick man, and they would have put the known point somewhere down here that this thing would be over. And to help them using their Gunther's chain, it's easier to just dig out this little soft spot, crawl up here, boom, drop this tripod, and she's looking at the next 30-meter stretch. Hopefully they found a spot where they can use the whole 30-meter Gunther's chain. Now, what is a topographical Abney level? This is also something that is just not accurate at all. Fixed siding tube, movable spirit level. That means it's a bubble level. It's like what you recognize. Bubbles in between the lines, it's level. Can also be used on a Jacob's level, or, some sort of a primitive version of a St. Andrew's cross. All right. So they were still, I just wanted, to show that this guy invented it, supposedly. They were still looking for helps in the late 1870s. So they say. So they didn't have they had compasses. It wasn't good enough. They're not good enough. But there's just one of the many different things that you could find that weren't good enough. And when did they use it? This is another one. I just can't believe that, hey, we'll just gear it up so that if we trace the outline of these curved sections on a map, this can help us because our compasses suck. And if you've never done orienteering, you don't know, well, why would I need this when I got a $140 compass? Because they suck. They're all wrong. They're bad. You can't trust them. We don't know where north is. Gunther's chain is a distance measuring device for surveying. It's allegedly was designed and introduced in 1620 by the English Reverend mathematician Ed Gunther. It enables plots of lands to be accurately surveyed for many purposes. I'll bet it does. Oops, where is that Gunther's chain? $66 foot, 20.1 meters, divided into 100. Yeah, by the old 66, usually marked into groups of 10 by brass rings. Yeah, they are. Here's a brass ring right here. They haven't changed. That's what I was using in 1980. Practice things like that I learned at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, because we were attached to the artillery. But the great thing about being, or being, I guess, being able to be taught trigonometry was that you don't have to be close to the cannons when they go off, because that's the real sucky part of artillery. I heard them go off, and it still takes your breath away. See these other brass rings here? You know why they got these handles on them? Because you got to pull this thing as tight as you can to make sure there's no slack in it, because it's a level, flat earth. And if you want your surveys to matter, you have to have these brass tags, because sometimes you're going up such a steep hill, you can't use all 30. So you have to know where's your brass tag so that you can have the 10 link mark, and you'll know, because this is super important to keep it level and accurate. Way to go, Gunther's chain. We'll let them deal on those numbers later. But I mean, the Stedemeyer offshoot of a sexton, it still wasn't good. So in 1895, they, Curly, one of the famous for being in the Three Stooges, he's shown using the stadimeter, adjust the lower knife, get them logged up, and then now you've got two estimates of how it works, and still being used. They were making them in World War II, 1942. Yeah, sometimes that new radar, these other things, our compasses, it's just not good. But it's not this is for finding distance, not, I guess that's too much. Hey, I looked at that Noli map with you earlier, and I was very disappointed is why I had to show you some bigger pictures, because the Wikipedia, they're not showing you anything. Matter of fact, this isn't even the same picture. If you look where they had the rolled up page, this is not what was on that other side. And they do picture part of the rolled up page on this side. So this is some sort of a reproduction. That's from 1748. So I think they're showing us a reproduction. They're downplaying this Giambattista map, but it is the iconic map plan of Rome. He began surveying in 1736, had the map engraved. 12 years later, 12 copper plates engraved. They claim it was the Pope Benedict who said, "Make me a map." Pope Benedict doing his best Santa Claus imitation. And so he did it. The Noli map reflects the Buffonelli map of 1551. Uh-huh. 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 Pantheon, Spanish Steps, St. Peter's. Do you have your pen and paper out? Or did you write that down saying, I should look that up? I should look up the guy who did it. We already looked that up. All right. So I got interested in this because the Lord showed me this. I was watching something like this, and I'm there like, well, dang, who's that guy that made a map? Because this map shows that while you're in the Rome rebuilt, you always have an obelisk to guide you to the center, to guide you everywhere you want to be in town.
Of an interesting building. And if you're moving through the city, you know where you're going because every obelisk is visible from the next. It's a big city, it's a tangled city. But we're moving with direction and with understanding about how the city works because of these interventions placed there by Sixtus V.
How
The
about
middle
that?
street of the Trident shoots straight to Piazza Venezia and to the Vittorio Emanuele II Monument, a national monument from the 20th century.
All right. Who was up for the rebuild? Who's up? See the Coliseum in the background. You know what we're going through today. And you know that we just did something, we did the whole weather thing. We can just drop in on it
We'll
live.
continue to get this as we get closer to this event.
And
Right
I
now,
said
though,
it
we're
was going
tracking
to
that
hit
powerful atmospheric
California,
river
Florida,
slanding
move
the
in.
west
This was
more
the
across
beginning. This
southern
is a
Central Virginia.
worldwide event. I showed you the map earlier. People don't, everybody had a chance to say, where is the storm going to hit?
Well, it's the same atmospheric river storm that's soaking Southern California, but it's also bringing blankets of snow and rain to Arizona. Plows are already out and about, and they're already having to clean up the messy roads.
Look at that work by that snowplow. Let's bring in Doug Ninsel. He's with the Arizona Department of Transportation. Doug, thank you for being with us. And let's talk about where you guys stand right now. How are the roads holding up? And is there any specific areas that you're concerned about?
Well, yeah, and things are just starting to get underway in terms of our work to be ready, but we're expecting over the next 72 hours.
I'm going to drag that thing sideways.
Maybe
That's
about
crazy.
3 feet of snow in the Flagstaff area. So we've had to start gearing up, obviously, even days ahead of this to have crews positioned so that they can keep running our snow plows around the clock. So we have to be ready for snow on the important highways like I-17 between Phoenix and Flagstaff, and also I-40 across all of northern Arizona. So yeah, we're gearing up for it. The heavy rain has just started falling here in the Phoenix area.
Well, we talk about the mix.
Wow. I had an idea. What did I say that night? I know I was predicting and, something I rarely do. Said anything like it's going to be disrupted as bad as the Mississippi is going to be disrupted, but dang, I don't even know if this is Lex Luthor type of destruction that's coming. It's the testimony of Jesus Christ, and that's what I came to, more than encouraged by a bright light that has forever left no doubt of who I put number one on my who to fear list. Yeah, everyone saw me talking tie in, and in the videos later that I have pulled up, I hope we'll see that it goes like, I don't know why I'm talking about this video. It did the CIA create the hippies?
Located at 8118 Sunset Boulevard, about 1.5 miles from the Houdini Estate in Laurel Canyon. Only about 4.
Okay, wow. Is he talking about here? Yep. Exactly where I had the circle? Laurel Canyon? And did I talk and then put about, oh my goodness, this is a judgment on starting with Hollywood? Well, that was the title. Where's that was the title. That's the one I need to. That's the one I need to find. It was something about Satan is gay or something like that. Here, yeah, it was this. This is the one. This is the next morning. Is for next week.
Okay, let's.
Southern California, where the other bit of the storm, once that first low pressure system moves through, is going to be down in Southern California.
That's another one. I think I did a Sunday morning, Sunday night. Is this it? So are they like eyeballs? Yep. Not in the shape of an eyeball. Yep, this is it. Weird maps. Yeah, that's me in what they say in the spirit. I was about to prophesy everything. That's the word you're thinking of. That's what it's called. I'm not sharing. I just showed a picture of a bimini, a man with a head in his chest. Chanel number 5, but they just didn't build it. Upon this nation. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, my watertight battery protector, for a reason. Oh, I read this. Mud flood was Armageddon. Formerly flat earth nation, golden age past. Because this is a flat earth nation. The golden age is definitely past. Because the mud flood was the Armageddon. And I'm never going to tell you anything else. Never let anyone tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you or me in a fair and honest way. The one God is all eye and no sky, divided waters into dust, not for us, but as an object lesson for spirit beings that, unlike humans, have no body, of which we call flesh. Communing in unity is community. My skin is a semi-watertight battery protector for a reason. Reason together in community with the accent on unity. I would like to explain my airtight examples. I believe in living water. From the spirit world, I have been given what Scripture calls a gift of faith for no other reason than to warn people of a final eternal judgment of utmost importance. The Most High Spirit's nature of love was a mystery to history that answers every question, starting with the word why. Why do things revealed to the prophets need discernment? The prophets will cause division that we are told are like either of the types to be divided are the sheep and the goats. And people want me to be ashamed of this? There's no way. It gets fed back into the system. It is going to stay into the light. It becomes one with the system. Now, they can make welcome to string theory goodbye. They can't explain why it's moving, why light is pushing it. One of us, Do Re Mi, wrote a book explaining light in the form of a novel in 2008. I didn't know what I was doing. It's different type of prophesying now. It's not like God comes down and tells to Elijah, pray really hard and I'll answer it and it won't rain for 3.5 years. It doesn't work like that now. Today and tomorrow, they got some explaining to do.
And appears to fumble with that backpack. A bomb is later discovered.
So a storm is covering up a lot of news that's being released right now. And still, the wide road is going to think, oh my gosh, my house got rolled away and I don't have flood insurance. How am I going to vote? No, they're not. This man has just planted a pipe bomb outside the window where Kamala Harris, the vice president of the United States, is going to be the next day.
In the bush adjacent to the bench. At 8:14, the same suspect walking down an alley next to the RNC headquarters. A bomb placed there as well before exiting the area, walking past the Capitol Hill Club.
Okay, well, thank God that the pipe bomber at least wore a COVID mask. He might be a terrorist, but he's not a super spreader.
And all of this is false information in a vain attempt to show you that even former liberals are going to vote for Bush this time. Not Bush, Trump. He's telling you the truth, but he's doing it for a different reason than me. That I can say, thus saith the Lord.
So now there's a new video that has shown up of someone. Well, here, I'll just play it for you.
And it's really remarkable. What it depicts is the discovery of the DNC bomb at approximately 1:05 p.m. on January 6th. And if you follow the timestamps closely, you can see this guy in a backpack come into frame at around 1:05. What he does is he first approaches a car, which is a...
This is a police officer, they'll later disclose. Here are children crossing the street. This police officer knows there's a pipe bomb 20 feet from where these children are crossing the street.
A Metro PD car, talks to the driver's side in the window for a while, then moves to the other side of the window, and then eventually moves and chats with somebody in a black SUV, which is a Secret Service car, chatting with Secret Service. In fact, we've learned through multiple sources that the Metro PD was part of that.
They know there's a pipe bomb.
Why was the Secret Service there?
Less than 20 feet from those, because this is Kamala Harris's pedestrians. Secret Service car. She's in this building. The vice president is in that right then.
The guy finishes talking to the SUV and then leaves the frame. What the individual in the backpack is doing is alerting the Metro PD and the Secret Service of the fact that there is a pipe bomb just feet away that was planted by the park bench outside of the DNC. Now, for those watching this...
Planted by a patsy and accused somebody that was from the insurrection, and that's terrible. They should have busted him right away, because that insurrection was bad. Oh, it's like the French Revolution insurrection.
This video, and everyone has to watch this video to follow along. The first thing that will strike you as remarkable is just how utterly unconcerned both the Metro PD and the Secret Service are about being informed that there was a pipe bomb literally within feet of...
But you remember, in all of the trials, going to have a memory, and it's the memory of judgment, not the memory of, ooh, this means I should vote for Donald Trump.
Of them, and within feet of their protectee, who was VP-elect Kamala Harris. You'll notice if you watch from approximately 1:07 to 1:09 in the timestamp, utterly lackadaisical, utterly unconcerned, takes them minutes to even get out of their vehicles, at which point...
Boy, look how they spring into action at the terrifying news that there's pipe bombs outside of Kamala Harris, the office that Kamala Harris is...
Lingering around, uninterested, unconcerned. And then this alone isn't...
So
we'll see this.
Eventually they move the camera and you can see that this is the park bench where that... No, so I think he was sitting on this back bench now that I get another look at it, because they had this one kind of like would have been hiding the bomb, I think. But he just reported the bomb. And here's kids going to school. Man was sitting and he put the bomb right here. It's right here. Other one. When?
Years, but there's still a long way to go in this last battle. A long way. While men of goodwill everywhere face the challenge.
So the eye leads to the castle. Remember, And in the middle, here's all your connecting nerves of how it's all held together. Will be fit into the body of Christ. There's your, the river of life. It would, this was, we might need to go back. Now, what is the date? Was it this one? Did I open up this one? Praying for California. So yeah, I had said all of the thing, of what was going to happen. Laid it out. Talked about the Beatles. Talked about, where's that? I told Randy, I said, I don't know why I'm bringing up this part about Laurel Canyon, but it was a big part of it.
Onto nightly. Only this is loud and rumbling. So either way you look at this, doesn't that sound like a physical object? So back to NLV, he thunders from his pavilion. See how he scatters his lightning about him, bathing the depths of this.
This was a part I showed Static in the Attic, acting. These people that don't study the Bible, now are just ready to teach about it, and they don't know it.
Then God spoke to Job out of the storm. He tells Job, brace yourself like a man. And
lots of my videos about the rest of the dead being the inheritors, I talked about possibility of them being able to
right. And her channel keeps growing, Understanding Conspiracy keeps growing, and they want people to go to the North Pole. And I think I showed in the first half hour, we don't even know what the North Pole is. It's not a flat earth thing. Go get the rest of the corn. It's all of it. Is there any beans left? So the rest of this show, I think I'm just gonna, I had some other videos I wanted to get to the other night, but it was just too much. So that's one I was recently watching here. Let's see.
Mixture of rain and snow. A lot of folks, when they think Arizona.
Can we hold out for a few seconds to see if the atmospheric river that is God's judgment is going to take out Hollywood, and it's going to keep going. I mean, the weather, Randy is actually worried the warm weather in what they call the Midwest, the trees are going to bloom. And once they bloom, once it gets down below freezing again, there won't be a crop next year. This could be even much worse than has been shown or explained right now. This actually could be much worse. Yes. Right. How does South work? How does North work? A lot of maps show North used to be South, South used to be North. There are different parts, when they do a flat Earth projection and they show the magnetic declinations, all the compasses don't work the same way over this flat Earth. To not think, that all the maps were showing Jerusalem in the center of the world for a reason. And then there was a change, and all of a sudden it's at a pole, a physical place at the top of a ball. Well, maybe it's hollow. Well, maybe thou dost protest too much because thou does not want to hit your knees and confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. That's also has to be considered part of in play. I have some different parts pulled up I wanted to share the other night, but I couldn't listen to myself. I was way in the spirit and too judgmental. Warned them about the Nazis, and he was held prisoners, and he was questioned by the Nazis and Aleister Crowley and the occult. Hess, was it Rudolf Hess, tried to, fly to meet with the English to warn them about the Nazis, and he was held prisoners, and he was questioned by Aleister Crowley and Ian Fleming. And Ian Fleming wrote James Bond, basically warning us about Spectre. Where did he get those ideas? And he also, along with, telling us and warning us about evil in the world, he painted the CIA as the good guys, and they're not good guys with the license to kill. So I know that the name of the star, the Dick Van Dyke character, was Caraticus Potts. I looked up Caraticus, found out he was an ancient king, and that was that affected? Well, even in the United States, Thomas Jefferson's at the time, his most well-known riding horse was named Caraticus. So, they know those things, and it's time for us to understand them. We understand war, and that it's much more than just, our guy, my dad can beat up your dad. When it's nations at war, you have to have these military analysis networks, joint tactical information distribution systems. This is from 1997, and what, in 1997, you need people planning. And in 1997, this was what, the United States said, what was their ring of defense? Well, Navy fighters, Air Force fighters, submarines, whatever that is, U.S. naval carriers, tornadoes from the UK, United States. This is we call that an AWAC. They call it an E3. Navy ships, rivet joints, United States Air Force MPCs, UK E3s, FRE3s, whatever a MAOC is, USAF Joint Stars. The Army has to have, its gear together. You just
That's a
need
lot of money.
field
That's a lot of
artillery,
military
whatever a
industrial complex.
USAFC MCE is, U.S. course, surface to air missiles, command and control centers.
Hope you have your
A
pencils and
lot of
stuff out.
money
You should
has to
check
be
these
spent
things
on
out.
wars and the rewriting of wars, because what do we do now? We have, closely followed by the Cairo Conference. Let's see, there's a couple of quotes here where it talks about
the high commands of the United Nations powers mapping the blows that will strip Japan of the vast empire gained through 50
Where's Stalin?
years of terror and aggression.
Where's Uncle Joe?
Pledged to a common cause, the unconditional surrender of Japan.
Uncle Joe was not going to be sitting with Chiang Kai-shek anymore because he was double-crossing him.
It looks like Tehran wasn't a peasant city then. It looks like it was a working capital.
Here, 6,000 miles from Washington, 2,700 miles from London, and 1,500 miles from Moscow, the president and prime minister meet their great ally in the war against
there he is.
Germany, Marshal Joseph Stalin, premier of Soviet Russia.
Did you know that that wasn't his real name? It's his stage name. Stalin means steel. So it's like saying, it's Joe Steele, Jack Armstrong,
Joe Steele.
Joe Steele.
The dramatic conference for which the world has watched and waited. Roosevelt, Stalin, and Churchill.
Made me think of, Max Headroom. Or how about the first person to die of AIDS? Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson. That's a stage name.
A great beginning was made in the Moscow Conference
last October by Mr. Molotov, Mr. Eden, and our own Mr. Howe. There and then the way was paved for the later meeting. At Cairo and Tehran, we devoted ourselves not only to military matters, we devoted ourselves also to consideration of the future.
I'll bet they did.
The kind of world which alone can justify all the sacrifices of this war. At Cairo, Prime Minister Churchill...
Did you know that RJ, the famous Randy from Wisconsin, is he's related to Winston Churchill, man, directly. Like first cousin once removed, something like that. It's like his uncle was Jenny Randolph's Churchill's sister.
And I spent 4 days with the Generalissimo, Chiang Kai-shek. It was the first time that we'd had an opportunity to go over the complex situation in the Far East with him personally.
And little did he know he was going to get double-crossed and forced onto the island of Taiwan. Yeah, no kidding. Disgraced. He got forced onto the island of Taiwan. He ruled it until the 70s, and then now it's the Silicon capital of the world. Let's see. Did I have the United Nations thing pulled up? So anyway, what they have listed as the United Nations were the allies of World War II. The allies, formerly referred to as the United Nations from 1942, were an international military coalition. Not exactly what they say the United... You know that all those movies where it's the Axis and the Allies, the Axis and the Allies. And even the movies made during the war, you never hear that called, oh, we're the United Nations. Was that sarcastic enough? United Nations are today, formed during the Second World War to oppose the Axis power led by Nazi Germany, Imperial Japan, and Fascist Italy, 3 very small countries. Its principal members were the United Kingdom, the United States, the Soviet Union, and China. And don't those countries have veto power today where, one person can say, nope, we're not going to do it? They do. Very, very strange things go on in what they call the United Nations. And now we find out it wasn't a continuation or something that was like, oh, the League of Nations was a good idea after World War. If it wasn't for the fact that, the Lord showed me so many things that revealed the Bible, then I get it. I wouldn't listen to me either. But dang, the golden age is past and the rocks are crying out. Thank you, Lord. We won't get fooled again. Plot involved, rebuilding a race car. They had, Toot Sweets as the candy. Truly Scrumptious was the hot girl that fell for the older guy. Isn't that everybody's dream? The Nasty Baron Bombburst. Bulgaria, who was, Bulgaria, was bad. The Baron hated children, but he was childlike. They had a child catcher. A lot of weird stuff going on. Check it out. It's 12. 7 spirits came out. And that is the way it will also be with this evil generation, not something else. They were that wicked and despised generation. Luke 9:4. What is this? Weekly roundup of stories from the Sunday Post. The Devil and Mr. Bond, how the notorious occultist of Loch Ness inspired 007 and author Ian Fleming's villains. You know, they had rocket packs in the 60s, and we thought they'd be around by the 1980s. Let's see here. Aleister Crowley, one-time master of the Boleskine House near Inverness, met James Bond creator Ian Fleming during the Second World War and was not only the inspiration for the writer's first great villain, but also the grotesque template for most of those who followed. And the reason behind their unlikely, and it says only meeting,
it's all
is
like the
stranger than
James
the fiction
Bond
itself.
crap.
Sprang
They're
out
selling this
of the
shit, and he was
historical
involved
rival in
with the
Scotland,
Aleister
home of
Crowley.
James Fleming, with military intelligence about how to frame this message. You just skipped it. You see what I did? I was probably looking for it. You can see it right here. Here they mentioned Crowley became inspiration for Bond's first villain, Lashy. Blueprint for most of the blonde villains. No, I did say it. That was so these things really happened. They played the Texas Hold'em poker. The Christian Observer. Wow, this isn't one, you know, when these guys first started out with this, like, chasing the Nephilim bloodline, and I kind of was getting triggered a little bit, and I was going like, who's the real Gibberine? Who are the Gibberine? 6:2, valiant warriors, mighty men. Joshua 8:3, go get 30,000 mighty men of valor and go see how things go if God's not on. They weren't men with polluted bloodlines. That's not why God said go in. And we'll get to the verses in Deuteronomy 20 that says, here's why you're going in. Ooh, it wasn't to kill alleged mighty men that only had Nephilim bloodline, because you can see the word continued so much further. Said go in, and we'll get to the verses in Deuteronomy 20, but still that's the 1500s. First, you know, they dressed like that. And they reference a lot of so that's supposed to be first the Nephilim were clowns, then the clowns were incarnate demons, and I think they were something else. And I think that just jumping in there to sell a book is because he had a bad trip on mushrooms. It just seems kind of overreactive. And yet, even Peterson, isn't that his name? Jordan Peterson, or he's dressing like a clown, man. There's something going on with that. But it doesn't mean autographing bloodline demons jacket. To go on to talk about how the premier of Canada is picking on him. You're picking on me, man. Okay, so Harlequin, something's going on here. I think we wanted to not give him any more publicity. You want to dream about doctors and nurses hooking up. They got the medical focus. I'm talking about Harlequin romance book, Everlasting Love, Flip Side, MAGA, Ginger Blossom, Heartwarming, Intrigue, Love and Laughter. You know, whatever you need, they got Harlequin has it for you today. That doesn't mean you need to kill. You know what? I wonder if they had those primitive AI books for reading those. I mean, writing those. not familiar with the, I've seen the covers. I know the jokes about Fabio. I mean, more stuff I was involved in, probably. Ooh, a big long Bible study. Way to go, Paco. Get her done. Let's see what this one says. Hey, Britain, Germany, after they're, were allies with Japan. The Soviet Union had a pact where they wouldn't attack Japan. As expected, Japan was winning, and that's why World War II is fake. I mean, the United States, Britain, Germany, after they're, were allies. I don't want to beat that dead horse. Elisha, the priest, who was appointed over the chambers of the house of our God, and who was related to Tobiah.
Was a nice party while it lasted.
Well, that's what I would hope. I mean, it sounded awesome, right? I mean, yay. Verse 4. Now, before this, now don't be like the pre-trib raptures and go like, oh, you mean 2,000 years later? No, this was before all the big parade. Man, it was just like all you had to do is fall down and you were finding gold around there, man. I learned so much. You helped too, Andy, no doubt. Yeah, right to farm. And then I picked up this map today. Got this one too. We're going to be getting into Nazis in Atlantis a lot. Look at those guys. Superman. Hey, that's not it. Hey, where's the pictures? Man, I know I got some pictures today of this cool map. Look at this Petersboro. Everything was brand new to them also. If these are even real people. And there's still a market for it. You want to buy these things? Want to buy this ring? How much? Very rare ring. How much? $1,200. Yeah, no thanks. Want to buy one of these? $1,200. No, I'll give you like $475 for this pin. I'll give you $5. Because it says at 825 on the back. I don't know if you guys read that far, but want to buy one of these pictures? That means it's parts. That means it's mostly silver. Because they love it. Swastika was stolen. I buy one of those pictures. $350. What's this?
It's very. I mean, that is.
What?
That is smooth.
Man.
Like,
2017, combined worldwide sales of cannabis products, legal and illegal, were over 200 billion a year. But where did it all begin? It goes back to Neolithic Japan. About 10,000 BC, someone used it to start a fire.
And some of these, they get in really, you get to see some of the texture. The eye is an amazing thing. That's my eye. It's like my eye. Look at that one. My oldest daughter. That's kind of like what my eyes look like. Yeah. More like that one. Like that one, right? My eyes, they do. My oldest daughter, she's a speech pathologist in the Milwaukee school systems. Her eyes are the lightest blue. You know, sometimes you hear like dark blue. Hers are the palest blue, almost see-through. And that child had, you know, if she wasn't wearing her glasses, she couldn't read a shampoo bottle in the shower. It was, but people loved her eyes, man. Everybody did. All my children had beautiful eyes, but she was the bluest of them. I have another daughter, and her eyes were like that, like a type of like very unusual red brown. I don't know what that means. Hey, that's a cat. The gato.
Some of these one here, amber eyes. I have a daughter that has amber eyes.
That's the one, the brown ones.
Monkey eye.
You all remember my dog, Autumn.
I know that I looked earlier,
Talk about
and
some
this
blue
is
eyes.
They meet in Koblenz, Germany. Rhine has lighter water and Moselle darker. 8. Ilz, Danube, and Inn. The junction of these three rivers is in Passau, Germany. Ilz is a small mountain river to the left. The Danube is in the middle, and Inn is the light river to the right. Inn is wider than the Danube here, but still.
See the difference in the water?
9. Alaknanda and Bhagirathi rivers meet in India. Alaknanda is built.
So you can see there's something to it. I think that there's something to it. It seems like there has to be something to it. So let's keep looking. Why does this guy say there's nothing to it? You know, he's got where two oceans meet debunked, and he's basically going to be going like, it's just no big deal. Just a little sailing, you know, all those lines that you see of water on the internet
That's
are
the
fake.
famous Tom Scott.
So just sorry to debunk.
What's this?
I don't believe it's 20,000 years old. Neither should you. But there are mysteries out there. Now look at this. Just to show we're not going to hide from the mysteries of the world. Man, what's this? I saved this for a while, an old PDF. I just couldn't figure out what was going on here. I don't believe it's 20,000 years old. Neither should you.
I don't know how.
But there are mysteries out there. Now, that's not natural. Somebody put those in there and made that rock into a transformer.
Something. That could be a body part, you know, that was later enhanced for something else. But if you these are, you know, when it comes down to there's the things that you don't know and they involve this type of a thing.
That our father Abraham had before he was circumcised. For the promise to Abraham and his offspring that he would be the heir of the world did not come through the law, but through the righteousness of faith. For if it is the adherents of the law who are to be the heirs, faith is null and the promise is void. For the law brings wrath, but where there is no law, there is transgression. That is why it depends on faith, in order that the promise may rest on grace and be guaranteed to all his offspring, not only to the adherent of the law, but also to the one who shares the faith of Abraham, who is the father of us all, as it is written. I have made you the father of many nations, in the presence of the God in whom he believed, who gives life to the dead and calls into existence the things that do not exist. In hope, he believed against hope, that he should become the father of many nations, as he had been told, so shall your offspring be. He did not weaken in faith when he considered his own body, which was as good as dead, since he was about 100 years old, or when he considered the barrenness of Sarah's womb. No unbelief made him waver concerning the promise of God, but he grew strong in his faith as he gave glory to God, fully convinced that God was able to do what he had promised. That is why his faith was counted to him as righteousness. But the words "it was counted to him" were not written for his sake alone, but for ours also. It will be counted to us who believe in him who raised from the dead Jesus our Lord, who was delivered up for our trespasses and raised for our justification. Therefore, since we have been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus. 1 second here while I rearrange. It's hard. It's hard. I know sometimes the mind wanders, and we need to stay on, track and tell ourselves, this is the Bible. This is what it's all about. That while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Since therefore we have been justified by his blood, much more shall we
Much more shall we. Did I lose the audio? Oh, it looks like my I'm about to lose the whole Wi-Fi. Too bad.
Check this out. Will you click on that link you have? This is kind of a small thing, but on your Google Images, the link to your left right there. Yeah, click that. Scroll up if you could. It's going to show whoever this dude all the way at the top. Whoever this dude at the Vatican is, yeah, right there, top left corner. He's doing that Baphomet, 2 fingers on the right hand in the air. Those are 2 fingers, yeah, right there. So I don't know.
That's Pope Pius, man.
Well, there you go. Isn't pious? Isn't that a term for being good? Like more.
Yeah, that's Pope Pius. To be around tails. I'm still planning on trying to come out.
See, this Noah. You can act like you're. I went out and rescued him, and now not too happy. He wanted to go back to the hurricane. He didn't think it was going to happen. Well, they didn't think the atmospheric river was going to turn into the start of the judgment on the United States and Israel, starting in what I guess is the hometown of Satan, Hollywood.
For all the things that you've done. Feel so that you get to prove your love to me. And the voices of a million angels express my gratitude. That I have ever to be.
By his blood, he has
I
saved
talked
me.
to Greg earlier today, so it's fresh in my mind.
So I got this is a timeline of, if you don't want to believe me, you can go back to this guy. He's got it all figured out that it's all the solar eclipses, and his timeline starts August 21st, 2017. This is your dispensationalist thing. But, notice here you have, he's dealing with the 1,335 days. Here's the 959 days or first half. And here's the shortened second half of their leftover number because they didn't know what to do with it. Everything that they're teaching you except Flat Earth Nation Golden Age past is crazy, man. Crazy. Crazy for being so lonely.
Won't hurt them. You'll be able to do that to the arrows. How? Once again, something like this. What is that?
Play it.
Hey, this is supposed to play. This was, okay, that's a little bit anti-dramatic, but you'll see what I mean. When you have a battery and a good magnetic thing, so if you had armor and it was electrified, would those fiery darts stop before they hit you? I believe so. It's that, what they call eddy current braking. I like it. You want to see it one more time?
Yeah, I wish it was as smooth as 3 Brown 1 Red, and those guys that have 3 million subscribers, they could film all day, I do. But it doesn't hit the metal. That's crazy. And here, it was 2 years ago.
It's red on the inside.
Stellium 7 is going to be
when you
like,
get
look
up
at me,
close, there's all
man.
these channels
I
going
know
into
about
it,
the
and then you
mountains,
find
and there's
reddish earth
mammal
and the
type
crystal in it
stones.
that's
But
all there. But
once there was nothing left, he used to like to come on and talk to me, glean information. But when I wouldn't get pushed off the Bible, well, now he's all into trees, man. Trees. And he's forgot about, I think, the helical heart too easily. Right, Mike? Hacker Prince? An elephant could be a mammal. It could be a titan. We're just looking for the truth, man.
Communities in Palestine, or
not good audio.
Political status in
Central and Eastern Europe. Wow. Those were those cities maybe freed? I don't know. The orphan
pens
cities,
and paper
I don't
out.
know. Same area, Serbia, Germany.
Heskala.
Remember I just went over that.
Haskalah. Heskala. It's worth a look into.
Poser, probably not theologian. So anyway, just saying that they had their own enlightenment. Sometime, normal schools.
And look, this is, 2 months ago, and I've talked about these normal schools for years. That's why do you need normal schools? To teach the new norms. And plus there's like 40 languages being spoken, what they call the continental United States. And they just wanted to get people brainwashed. Got to get them while they're early. You've all heard that.
Started in the 1800s to train teachers. Why? Because there's been a reset. And people were importing whole cities, come to this town and work in a mine, have your own newspapers. You can speak Lithuanian, Polish, German, Irish, but 1870s, still building those universities. What's this one? 70. So I picked the year, 1975. 1875. Come on, man. Again, all over the domed planet, normal colleges were popping up. Texas A&M started as, a normal school. University of Lyon, Catholic University in France, another one in France. So the reason they weren't doing it so heavily then is that it looks like they were doing it earlier. Indiana University in Pennsylvania, there's a new one on me, started out as a
Indiana in Pennsylvania.
Normal school. Vanderbilt is made the list twice. I looked up the Vanderbilt Divinity School. They're a mainline product. Time, big, who really dug it his way to the bank for people saying, "Oh, I'm going to help them set up the JFK fund." That he's the good guy.
See, Chiang Kai-shek didn't go away. He still got to be the military dictator of a fairly good-sized island until the 70s.
Coming back to help us? I don't think so. Another star fort from China. He was a very popular person. He was all set to be one of the leaders, but it didn't happen for him. Must have had more than a few.
His wife was like Eva Peron. She was just as popular, if not more, fascinating to the American and European. They had the Charlie Chan movies, everything. It was very recently that Japan, let it out of the bag that, they're still pissed about the two opium rebellions that we double crossed them on, and then that Boxer rebellion, and then the whole World War II thing. They're mad, and they didn't act mad for a long time. What is the polar star? The order
Still
of
a lot
the
of orders
polar
out
star. I guess I already covered that.
An order of Vasha. Let's try to stay on Chiang Kai-shek for a little bit more here.
Let's don't. If they have their notebooks out, they already wrote that down. Hey, I want to talk about, as I've mentioned to a couple of the cross-country runners here, and I think there's going to come a time again. You ready for this one? This isn't a prophecy or anything like that, but you guys might be glad that you stuck around to hear this one. The pigeon post office will come back in style very soon, and runners. And to the cross-country team here, I hope to share this with them in person soon. Then Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, said, "Please let me run and tell the king the good news that the Lord has avenged him of his enemies." But Joab replied, "You are not the man to take good news today. You may do it another day, but you must not do it today, because the news of the victory would also include that his son Absalom is dead. You must not take the good news today. You may do it another day, because the king's son is dead." So Joab said to a Cushite, "Go, tell the king what you have seen." The Cushite bowed to Joab and took off running. He's there like, I get to go get the good news. Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, however, persisted and said to Joab, regardless of what may happen, please let me also run behind the Cushite. And Joab, not realizing that Ahimaaz was planning on passing up him, my son, Joab replied, why do you want to run since you will not receive a reward? No matter what, I want to run. Then run, Joab told him. So Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain and outran the Cushite. Now David was sitting between the two gates. When the watchman went up to the roof of the gateway by the wall, looked out and saw a man running alone. So he called out to the king. Now, isn't this interesting? Look for the part where they recognize the runner from a great distance. The king says, if he is alone, the king replies, he bears good news. As the first runner drew near, the watchman saw another man running, and he called out to the gatekeeper, look, another man is running alone. This one also brings good news, said the king. The watchman said, the first man appears to be running like Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok. And since he was the guy who normally was the fast runner and got to bring the good news, he goes, oh, he's a good man, because that's what the king thought. He always brings good news. He comes with good news. Ahimaaz called out to the king, all is well. And he bowed face down before the king. He continued, blessed be the Lord your God. He has delivered up the men who raised their hand against my lord the king. The king asked, is the young man Absalom all right? And Ahimaaz replied, when Joab sent the king's servant and your servant, I saw a great tumult, but I do not know what it was. Move aside and stand here, said King David. So he stepped aside. Just then, the Cushite came and said, may the Lord, the king, hear the good news. Today the Lord has avenged you of all who rose up against you. The king asked the Cushite, is the young man Absalom all right? And the Cushite replied, may what has become of the young man happen to the enemies of my lord the king, and to all who rise up against you to harm you. The king was shaken and went up to the gate chamber and wept. And as he walked, he cried out, oh, my son Absalom, if only I had died instead of you. Oh, Absalom, my son, my son. And of course, this led to one of the other times David had to repent. Final check on the news.
For 1.3 billion.
That video is unavailable. This is 35 minutes ago. We'll take that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Danny Ruberti here in the KCAL News studio, and we are continuing to track, this massive storm that has brought us historic rain in some areas. We're going to get to those totals, but LA County and parts of the South Bay, you are under the gun again. You probably hear it outside if you are in any of these areas. We've got that heavy rain that's moving in, and on top of that, we're dealing with thunderstorms popping up going into this evening. So I want to take you to a couple different areas. The yellows, the oranges, the reds, that's indicating that heavier rain that we're seeing. One of the areas of concern right now, it's going to be the South Bay. You can see areas like Seal Beach. We have a couple cells. These are two thunderstorms moving through, and they are bringing bursts of heavy rain, strong gusty winds. And on top of that,
let's face it, doesn't she look like she belongs in Hollywood?
I mean, over the last couple days, we've really been seeing 1/4 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch per hour. You saw in that little pocket, we were dealing with 1 inch per hour. And again, this stuff is moving through a little bit quicker. So you can see areas like La Mirada, Buena Park, La Habra getting in on this action right now. So this is where we are seeing Des Moines seeing some of this heavier rain right now
So
as
it's
well.
still coming down, and it's going to be coming down
So this batch
until
of
the
heavier rain
Lord
that
has
you're
finished
seeing,
this
it's
judgment.
moving
And
about 15 miles per
unfortunately,
hour.
we
So
are
on the slow
talking
side, but this batch is making its way
destruction,
southeast. So areas like Montebello,
economic
get to 8 o'clock, you can see this little
devastation,
cell developing
loss
right there
of
again.
life. I saw one of the earlier, reports of them on the street, and they rescued 30 homeless people from one of the, what they call the bottom. And I think they left, they clear out the homeless consistently.
Again, we're not done. We're going to keep adding to this going into the next several days. But here's the good news. You can see those rain chances. They go down like crazy. Wednesday into Thursday, it becomes a low chance. And this upcoming weekend, things are going to look good. So as we skip over to our next 7 days, you can see in LA and Orange County, we're going to hold on to
And
that
then
chance
the
for
rest
rain
of the
going into our
country will
Wednesday.
be
That's when it's going
under
to be a little bit more
attack.
scattered. We're going
And that is got you up to date on this flat earth nation, where the golden age is past, because the mud flood was Armageddon. And I'm never going to tell you anything else. Why would I? Why would my friends? We're trying to prove we have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara.